Hello again, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Midwest Ag This Week. I'm Stu Ellis. I'm honored today that you could join us. Primient has come to town. You'll find all about it. There are problems moving grain around, and you'll find out why. Ag education's changing, and you'll learn where that's happening. And we'll help you pencil out double crop wheat and beans next year. Buckle your seatbelt on an OSHA restriction on grain bin rescues. All that and more beginning right now.
Welcome to Midwest Ag This Week with host Stu Ellis.
Well, there's a new name for an old company that's an important market for corn growers. Tate & Lyle, which bought Decatur's A.E. Staley Manufacturing Company, has become Primient, and Procurement Director Tim Meinhold, with a long career in Central Illinois grain, says farmers will not see any change, maybe except for a new corn dump sometime.
Primient is a new standalone company created through Tate & Lyle selling a controlling interest in their primary products group to a company called KPS Capital Partners. Yeah, so primary products consist of our sweeteners industry, industrial starches, acidulants, personal care, and animal feed. And all of these finished products are generated through our processing of corn in the facilities that we receive here at Primient. Little change, if any, that farmers see at face value. Our farmer producers will continue to speak to the same representatives that they've spoken to. We'll continue to buy corn. We buy approximately $600 million worth of corn in the Decatur area today. That will not change. What you will see is you'll see Primient continue to be focused more on the sweetener industry, industrial starches, acidulants, personal care, and animal feed. And Tate & Lyle, as they branched off, will be more focused on specialty starches and with involved in ingredients and solutions. The thing they will notice most is the name change. The way we operate, the way we're doing business will remain the same and consistent as it always has for our farmer producers. We do produce ethanol at one of our facilities in Loudon, Tennessee. At this point in time in Decatur, we do not look to be expanded into the ethanol industry.
So anything dealing with corn and ethanol would only be for that Loudon particular area market?
That's correct.
Okay.
The products that we produce here in our Decatur facility, the corn sweeteners, things of that nature, dextrose, will continue to look to expand those operations moving forward, but nothing in the ethanol industry at this point in time.
Speaking of grain, farmers can pull a colleague from a grain bin engulfment, and so can elevator employees. But did you know that first responders cannot legally enter a grain bin to remove somebody engulfed in grain without the required OSHA training? Dave Newcomb knows. He's certified by OSHA as a trainer and was doing that and designated help with some Taylorville firefighters this week. Grain bin safety is something that should be on a farm every day of every week of every year, and fire people are certainly know that. Dave Newcomb of the Fire Service Institute at the University of Illinois is today teaching Taylorville and surrounding fire departments about grain bin rescue. And why can't firefighters just go in a grain bin and pull somebody out?
Well, for first responders, we fall under a lot of different laws, and OSHA standards say that we have to have confined space training to be able to enter the bin because it's recognized as a confined space.
Confined space training. Mm-hmm. So OSHA will not let a firefighter go in a bin legally without them going through your class.
Yes, at least a level, but yes, a basic operations class like this is the minimum what they would need. But once again, we have the highest standard to meet to perform the rescue because of how the laws work.
Okay, and so what have you taught these folks today, and what you teach all other firefighters and first responders every week?
Well, we have two-level classes. We have an awareness level class that teaches them everything they can do on the outside of the bin, and if somebody's trapped, how to cut the bin to get them uncovered. That's one class. Then this is an operations level class, which is 40 hours, and we do it over 2 weekends, 2 20-hour sessions. A week ago Friday, we started basically tying 2 knots, and this afternoon, or this morning, they actually were working here, and they had to rig the whole systems with, they used about 14 ropes to get this whole thing done in 2 weekends. But it's all of the all of the requirements they need to be able to enter that bin, all the proper harnessing, proper anchoring, and all of the different rope systems they would need to support themselves to go in legally, along with air monitoring and other things, and then patient care.
Okay, legally as defined by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Thanks to Dave Newcomb and the folks at Taylorville Fire Department. We're not going to be growing much grain to put in a bin today.
No,
For a while anyway.
After a while, things are still going to be pretty muddy across our area, thanks to more in the way of some rain showers, especially after some cold days that we've had too.
That's right. This it's kind of tough. There's a lot of people may need to go to a therapy group here
Yeah.
because they can't get planting.
Can't get planting done. We're trying the best we can here to dry things out. We do have warmer temperatures, which will be good, but that will come after another chilly weekend that we are expecting. Our soil temperatures in many of these locations have actually gone down since they have since last week. So it has been a dry or a cool period, but it has not been very dry. It's been very wet with multiple rounds of rain showers coming on through. In fact, across the state of Illinois, we've actually been able to trim away at some of the moderate drought conditions that have plagued the northern and northwestern part of the state. So that's been at least some good news there, where the soil moisture is up. But our chances for precipitation remain noticeable, especially as we go into next week with multiple rounds of showers and potentially even some thunderstorms as a large low pressure system begins to develop across more of the plain states. A lot of the state is going to see between about a 1 and 1.5 inches of rain, and that's again discounting any more of those heavier downpours that could be seen locally with some potential thunderstorms that are in our forecast. So after a few more rain showers are possible on Monday, what we're basically looking at will be a large low pressure system which will impact a lot of the Midwest. We're talking about bringing some heavy snow potentially back up to Montana and the Dakotas. We're talking about potential for some severe weather down farther to the south across maybe portions of Arkansas, and then down into Mississippi and Alabama. But we do look to have this cold front eventually sweep on through the area at some point. We're thinking on Wednesday. Behind that front would be much cooler air, and along that front we could even be talking about some stronger storms even within the Great Lakes areas too. So a very active pattern is expected for next week thanks to this large low pressure system, which then unfortunately will dry us out by the time we get to the end of next work week, but we are going to be looking at some colder temperatures coming back on in. So temperatures for our Sunday are going to be a lot better than what they have been recently, as many of us are going to be able to get into the low 60s, and then we should stay pretty seasonable, if not even getting closer to the 70s in a few spots, especially before that front comes through on Wednesday. But then after that one, Stu, we do have temperatures that will be falling back down for highs into the 50s. So we do have a warm-up in store for us here, Stu, but it does come with a chance for multiple rounds of some rain showers.
That's right. We're getting into Grandpa's dates now for planting corn. News for VOAG, big news for VOAG, coming right up.
Come back to Midwest Ag This Week.
Vocational agriculture is not only expanding to urban schools, but taking on some new horizons. Additional funding expected to be included in the new Illinois state budget will provide educational opportunities for teachers themselves to learn new skills. For a number of years, the state of Illinois budget has included some special funding for the VOAG program, facilitating coordination in vocational agriculture and ag education. Dean Dittmar is the leader of that program, but this year it's a little different. And instead of the budget being cut, which sometimes happens, you've got to increase. The governor put in up to $7 million.
Correct.
That was quite a change.
Right. We worked with the Illinois State Board of Education for right now a 41% increase, which is right at $7,050,000. But again, we're looking at expanding agricultural education, ag, food, and natural resources, and again, really in urban parts of the state. Because again, we do have several of our programs, many of our programs, 95%, downstate Illinois have agricultural education, and we are wanting to increase the diversity. We're wanting to take our message to urban parts of the state so that those students can reap the benefits of agricultural careers in ag, food, and natural resources.
Teachers need to know a lot more about that, so there's some education in there.
That is correct. So a big part of the ask as far as the increase is for professional development. Again, for agriculture teachers to understand and have the tools and the resources, the curriculum, to be able to teach more than just the traditional mechanics, animal science, plant science, but reaching out into biotechnology, water quality, drones technology, that our agricultural industry in producing food and getting that to the table for our consumer, it's going to take a lot more resources to help do that.
Going through the legislature fairly smoothly?
It is at this point. So my understanding, it was brought up with the House Appropriations Committee last week, and again, we still have a few more challenges in front of us as far as moving through the General Assembly, but we feel pretty confident at this point.
Reasons unspecified by the railroads. Grain elevators are not getting the service that they depend upon to move grain to livestock feeders and export terminals. National Grain and Feed Association has complained to the Surface Transportation Board that oversees rail operations. General Manager Mark Heil of Prairie Central Co-op says he hopes the regulators will spur some action.
The challenge that we've seen for ourselves, but also others in the industry, is when a train is being loaded, let's say a corn unit train, the railroad will drop the load or the empty train off at our facility to load. We have 15 hours to load it, and then it usually departs right back out again within another 6 to 12 hours. What we've seen in the last few months is that train may sit there for a few days or even a week to 10 days. And when that happens, it stops the flow of grain, because that train is sitting on your track. You can't get the next empty train in to load. If you're a facility that doesn't have enough storage space, you may have to stop dumping grain from farmers or from other elevators. It just bottlenecks the whole system, and that's what we've been seeing. That pressure point has been happening more so in the last 30 to 90 days than maybe any time that we've seen in the past decades.
So they're not taking out full cars. Are you having trouble getting any empty cars?
When we get the empty trains in our situation here, Prairie Central Co-op, we load at 3 unit train facilities. In our situations here, we've done okay. It's our colleagues further west. If you get into the western part of the United States, that is where we're hearing they're having the greatest challenges, but we're paying very close attention here. In fact, we had a train that we loaded at our Pontiac, Illinois location about 10 days ago. That train sat on our tracks for 3 to 4 days, which is very, very rare to happen. That may have only happened, 2 or 3 times in the last 20-year time period. So it's an extreme situation. And I know the grain industry can show a lot of flexibility, but we're at a point here, as mentioned, we've played all the cards that we can play, and just help us keep this grain moving, and know that it's an important issue for us right now.
We're going to delve into farm credit in a minute. Right now, a very important person right behind us, Matt Bennett. And Matt, we had a WASDE report here at the end of the week. Found out a few less beans, about the same amount of corn. It really wasn't a real major market moving report, because I have a feeling global food was probably a bigger thing in the headlines today.
Yeah, I mean, essentially the planning intentions report last week was the big report. April WASDE doesn't usually move the market a whole lot, and that's going to be the case again this year. You lost 25 million bushels for carryout as far as U.S. soybeans were concerned. That all went to exports. Corn carryout did not change. World market, the actual carry on world corn was it grew a little bit, which wasn't too surprising because of the Brazilian crop. But as you suggest, more of what's going on is what's going to happen in Ukraine. Are they going to get that whole crop planted, whether it's corn, whether it's sunflower? A lot of talk that they're going to switch from corn over to soybeans due to the fact that they're going to have such a hard time getting that corn exported. So if that's the case, and it's definitely going to have a supportive feel for the world corn prices. And it's certainly going to add to, I guess, the worry that we're not going to come up with enough corn, especially with just 89.5 million acres planted here in the U.S.
Right at the top of the report, USDA put in a little preface saying, we're not real sure what's going on over in Eastern Europe, and so let us hedge a little bit on our numbers.
Yeah, I think that whenever you look, for instance, at the world ledger, it sure looked to me that they're kind of preparing themselves for tightness ahead. And as far as corn's concerned, I think that you're going to see that reflected in future reports. This May report, they're going to be plugging in 89.5 with the supply and demand balance sheet. It's going to be a pretty tight situation. So moving forward, I think that you should see a supportive tone as far as corn's concerned. And then beans right now look awfully good. And I think a lot of that has to do, again, with this sunflower crop in Ukraine.
We've only got 15 seconds, but I know you're like other farmers. You don't have any seed in the ground yet, and that lateness in planting is going to push the market a little bit.
No, it's there's no question. It snowed a little bit on us this morning, so it's awfully wet.
We appreciate Matt Bennett of agmarket.net being with us today. And we'll be back and delve into farm credit right after this. Farmers have to keep a good relationship with their lender because of the substantial cost of farm equipment and crop inputs. That means institutions which provide funding are very important to the Illinois landscape.
As we look at the building blocks of Illinois agriculture, one of those main ones is ag finance, and Farm Credit is a cooperative that's part of agricultural finance. Aaron Johnson is president of Farm Credit Illinois, and what is Farm Credit as a co-op?
Well, Stu, we were started in 1916, so well over 100 years ago now, as a means to bring reliable, consistent credit to American agriculture. And what was happening back then, of course, was agriculture was expanding to the West, and Congress and President Wilson at the time wanted to bring some consistent, reliable, long-term credit into the marketplace, and that's how we started.
Okay, and so how do you do that?
Well, now the Farm Credit System nationwide, and Farm Credit Illinois, which we manage here out of Mahomet, is the southern 60 counties of Illinois. We're owned by our members who are borrowers, so we're driven to make operating loans and machinery loans to farmers and people involved in agriculture, as well as real estate loans. Most of our lending is on the real estate side here in Illinois in the southern 60 counties, and we work with large farmers, we work with small farmers and everyone in between, as well as rural communities and rural landowners.
Okay, and I can see most people would kind of understand what you do in that, but why is all of this important?
I think it's to be there for the agricultural communities in good times and bad, and that's why we're here. Helping farm families succeed is our mantra and what we strive to do each day. And we've got about 8,500 farm families that we work with in our 60 counties, and about $5.6 billion worth of loans. So it's really to supply them with the expertise, products, and knowledge that helps them succeed on a daily basis.
$5.6 billion that you've loaned out, but they have not deposited money like that into a bank. You're not really a bank.
That's correct. Yeah, we're a lending cooperative, and we get our money by selling securities on Wall Street, and is funded through 4 farm credit banks around the country that then loan the money to us in the local associations. So we're part of a network of 64 associations now, I believe, in the nation, and 4 farm credit banks delivering capital to the farmers on the farm and others related to agriculture.
Okay, and this is something that you do throughout those 60 counties, and
yes,
day in and day out, and you meet with them and provide risk management as help too.
We do. We have 14 offices and about 280 employees, and we supply not only crop insurance expertise and products, but lending products to those farm families in our territory.
Okay, we appreciate Aaron Johnson being with us today to talk about Farm Credit Illinois.
And we'll be back in a moment with a look at double cropping for next year. If you're planting more beans this year to reduce your nitrogen outlay, you're also probably thinking about a wheat and a soybean double crop for next year. College of ACE's ag economist Gary Schnitke has researched that idea. He says it's an alternative worth considering for next year.
Wheat in central Illinois can work, particularly as we're looking at prices from 2023 and looking at what appears to be very high prices for wheat and all commodities for 2023 as a result of that Ukraine-Russia conflict. So those prices do look like they would cause wheat to be profitable. Having said that, you got to have wheat and double crop soybeans. Wheat as a standalone crop won't do it. You have to have double crop soybeans behind it, and making that combination work is going to require a lot of management.
Okay, management. What should people be investigating before they make that commitment?
Yeah, so if you're going to plant wheat, you probably have to think a bit about your herbicide program now, making sure you can grow wheat. But the big thing of making wheat work is that you have to manage it fairly intensively. You're going to be putting urea or some other nitrogen source in the spring. You're probably also going to be putting fungicides and insecticides on it and trying to get it off as early as possible, because the earlier you get that wheat off, the quicker you can plant double crop soybeans, and that really has an impact on yields on double crop soybeans. So we need to get that wheat off early. So finding an outlet for wheat that's probably ready to do high moisture is something that you have to think about, and just being ready to manage both of those crops.
If they do make that commitment now, should they be locking in a price for 2023 wheat?
Yeah, right now 2023 wheat looks good, and if you're going to make that decision, locking in some of it probably wouldn't be a bad idea, as with all crops.
A lot of pencil pushing on that idea in the next few weeks and months. Well, that concludes this edition of Midwest Ag This Week, and we hope that you've benefited from some of the information that you heard and saw today, and hope that you'll share it with your farming colleagues. On behalf of the staff here, we invite you to join us again next week at this time. I'm Stu Ellis. Thanks so much for watching.